So again, 24 million people watching, and most people would agree that Donald Trump was the big draw here, right? Even lifelong Democrats, they were all curious to see how the man known for his blunt talk and making real estate deals would actually perform. And there were fireworks right off the top.
We're looking for you to raise your hand now. Raise your hand now if you won't make that pledge tonight. Mr. Trump.
All right, so right now the GOP's got a situation. It's scrambling to deal with what could be a Trump problem. So what happens if Trump launches a third-party bid? Well, we're asking liberal radio talk show host Richard Fowler and Mark Serrano, former deputy campaign director for President George H.W. Bush. Again, amazing numbers here, 24 million people. This is a record here for Fox News. It's a record for primary debates. We're going to have Howard Kurtz, who follows the media beat for us. He's going to be joining momentarily. But Mark, first over to you, your reaction on these just blow away numbers.
Huge numbers. You got to take your hat off to Fox News for running an effective debate, selecting the candidates well. And it's very interesting that you talk about Donald Trump and this third party run, Trish, because it's not just Republicans' party that should worry about that. It's the party elites from both sides. And I'll tell you why. There are two reasons. Number one is what Donald Trump knows and what the party elites don't is that American voters and the Obama economy are much more concerned about finding a job or paying their mortgage than they are about party loyalty. And why that's very, very important is there's a poll out this week that shows that 23% of Democrat males support Donald Trump. And there are 14 states that allow open primaries where Democrats can vote for a Republican for president.
Hold that thought, because I want to get back to that. And I want to talk a lot about Trump. We're going to over the course of the next hour, because we got a lot of questions that we want to be asking you. But, I want to get back, first of all, to the fact that you had this amazing tune-in. Richard Fowler, is that because of Trump?
I think it's not only because of Trump. I think it's because this field is just so fluid. And I think I think Democrats are watching to see what's being said, what's not being said, and sort of to evaluate the circus of the GOP primary. And I think Republicans are tuning in because they got to figure out who they're going to vote for in the next 11 or so some odd months, over the next 11 months, rather. And right now, a lot of them, they're up in the air. While Donald Trump is leading in the polls, there were some clear standouts last night. I think one big standout last night for those what I would call the brass conservatives, the GOP base, is somebody like a John Kasich, who is very electable to independents, very electable to some Democrats. He's going to play well in the state of Ohio, and he did a great job last night.
He did a great job. Mark, go ahead.
It was a Trump draw, too, though. You got to remember, Donald Trump has something that none of these other candidates has. He's had the experience on television these past 12 or 14 years. That is a serious draw for a lot of Americans, and that's why he's more unique than most of these other candidates. He draws ratings for media, which is partly what's driving his polling.
But you mentioned something earlier, and I think it's important, Mark. You're saying that he's tapping into this authenticity and this need for something real out there from voters. They like him because he's just kind of being super blunt, maybe sometimes, frankly, too blunt. But nonetheless, it's sort of, what you see is what you get, and he's not going to throw you he does throw you a lot of surprises. I suppose that's what people like, but not necessarily. He's not trying to hide behind anything. And that may, in fact, be part of the appeal. It's sort of like, you could call it, Mark, the ghost of reality out there that was on stage with all these established politicians last night.
Yeah. Trish, it's about the mood of the country, and the mood of the country is recognizing that Democrats, first and foremost, under the Obama administration, have led us down a path of economic ruin, but that the Republican establishment is part of the problem as well. So there is a lot of frustration across the country because look at that job participation rate. My goodness, millions of people who'd like to work and can't work full-time jobs. And that's behind this mood because we have gone through this economic ruin.
I know. And people are in a tough spot. And, 200,000 jobs a month, I'm sorry, it just doesn't cut it, especially when they're not paying you well. But back to this idea that he may actually throw a wrench in everything by running as an independent. Do you think, Richard Fowler, that could happen? And does that guarantee Hillary Clinton the White House?
Well, according to The Hill, and Kevin Cirilli at The Hill has been reporting that, there is a possibility he's thinking about running for as a third-party candidate. We'll have to see what happens here. If he does run as a third-party candidate, it does bode well for Democrats. But beyond that point, I think there's something to be said about why Trump has had this meteoric rise. And I think what that rise speaks to is this ideal in America that they want realness from their candidates. They don't want talking points. They don't want poll testing. They don't want, over made up plastic candidates like you saw with Jeb Bush last night. And so that's why you're seeing a rise in somebody like Donald Trump on the Democratic side.
I really wouldn't say
on the Democratic side.
That's a cheap shot there, Richard. I mean, I think the difference between Jeb Bush and some of the others, he seemed to me, and we have a body language expert who's going to really break this down for us just momentarily, but he seemed to me to be actually a little nervous, Mark, which was genuine in and of itself.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, Jeb Bush definitely showed some strength as a conservative. He was well prepared. But, in a lot of ways, I think Bush and Walker, as the number 2 and 3 candidates, did not really bring their A game. I don't think they failed by any measure, but I don't think they gained a lot through that debate either last night. So there was a lot of high points. A lot of the candidates did extremely well. But really, if you're number 2 or 3, you want to score some points.
Is that the problem? They're just kind of, they're kind of boring. Whereas Kasich, nobody really had any expectations from John Kasich. So he comes out.
That's a good point.
And Kasich he's the guy that they're like, wow.
Look, in a moment like a debate, you've got to capitalize on that moment. If you get maybe 6 minutes to speak in that 2 hours of debate, you have got to score some points, some point through that 6 minutes. Kasich did, Rubio did, Cruz did, Trump did. They had some very good highlights. And going against 9 other guys and having only 6 minutes, you've got to capitalize on that time. And I don't think Jeb Bush failed by any measure, but I also don't think he scored as well as he could have.
So there are any in there, Richard, that you think that we can sort of maybe scratch off the list that maybe have fallen, a rung or two as a result of last night?
Yeah, last night, I think the definite loser last night was Chris Christie. He looked like even though he was the biggest person on the stage, literally, he was the smallest person on stage when it came to debate technique and debate tactics.
I don't know. I kind of disagree with you on that. He really took on Rand Paul straight on, and he said, you know what, Rand Paul, you and your NSA and not wanting these phone records to actually be looked at, I got to deal with the actual families. I'm out there hugging the families who have lost their loved ones on September 11th, and I think that resonated.
The real loser last night, let me tell you, the real loser was the Democrat Party. And I'll tell you why. You've got Fox News put on this fantastic showcase with 17 candidates through the night. That was a win for the Republican Party. It was a win for anti-establishment mood. But look, the Democrats, they're not going to have a debate till October. They're only going to have 6.
I completely disagree with you.
They're clearly setting this up so that Hillary Clinton has the advantage. The Democrats lost last night because the Republicans had a showcase of great talent that's ready to lead.
I completely disagree with you. And let me tell you, there's 2 reasons why. And I'll get this out very quickly.
Guys, very quickly. I got 30 seconds.
The first reason why is Facebook told us the number 1 issue facing the American people is race issues. In that debate, spent 10 seconds talking about it. Democrats are focused on it. It's going to be a big issue in this upcoming election.
Try jobs. People care about jobs. They care about security of this nation.
More people are posting about race issues.
Facebook is not likely voters. Facebook are not likely voters.
We got to leave it there.
Likely voters care about jobs.
Voters. That's exactly what Mitt Romney said.
Jobs do matter. Listen, that's the lifeblood of everything, our economy, and that's why we talk about it here so much on the Intelligence Report. Rich and Mark, thank you so much.